sorry, who is counsel for Mr. Stringer again?
Robert Smith.
Mr. Smith, is he in the building?
He is in the building. The last information I had was that he was going back to speak with his client.
Okay, we'll get him in here. We're also going to bring the defendants in.
Your Honor, if I may.
Well, I'd like the client to
Okay, that's
make
fine.
any statements for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Here's some reports that I've received apparently this week after the trial. So these reports were received. I also have a binder containing the air investigator's report. I got that. Sorry. I haven't had a chance to make a copy of it. Just so you know that those are outstanding. I think that I remember transferring is looking through this that we just got this week. Issues. I don't see that in there, so I may have missed printing it out.
Okay, well,
You know,
I'll get
but
it
it's-
here when you say it.
Yes.
You got it? Let me get my coat out.
Okay. Recalling the People versus DeSean Smith, file 1620546, and Jaylen Stringer, 1620549. May I have your appearances, please?
Certainly, Your Honor. Assistant Prosecutor Kelly Collins appearing on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Again, Marlon Blake Evans on behalf of Mr. DeSean Smith.
Morning, Your Honor. Robert Smith on behalf of Jaylen Stringer.
Good morning. Okay, today is the date set for preliminary examination for both defendants, and any matters that we need to address.
On behalf of Mr. Smith, there is, Your Honor.
Okay.
May I approach the podium?
Sure.
Your Honor, Marlon Blake Evans on behalf of Mr. DeSean Smith. Your Honor, I've been representing Mr. Smith since the onset of this, and I've had an opportunity to speak with him on several occasions, attempting to discuss the discovery, and in my opinion, and also based on information I received from his family, that he has a history of mental health issues. And it appears that there's been a breakdown in communication, and it relates to my preparation for this preliminary examination. And I feel that the proper approach in terms of proceeding with this matter would be a possible competency evaluation and also criminal responsibility, because, again, we've pretty much shut down as it relates to communicating back and forth and being prepared for this preliminary examination.
Thank you. Ms. Collins.
Your Honor, I did receive word late yesterday from Mr. Evans' office that that would be his request this morning. I would indicate that I don't have anything to refute Mr. Evans' claims. He's the one that has the opportunity to speak with his client and have conversations with him and make those assessments. It's my position that when that request is made, number one, as it relates to competency, that should be done and a referral should be made. I did come today with papers related to a referral for competency. Specifically as it relates to criminal responsibility, a criminal responsibility evaluation is predicated on a notice of intent to assert the insanity defense. Criminal responsibility is not an issue for the district court or for preliminary examination. I leave it to the court's discretion, number one, whether to order that referral alongside of a competency in order to streamline the proceedings. But if that referral is made, I would ask that the notice of intent to assert an insanity defense be filed prior to any evaluation by the forensic center being conducted. I will also indicate that based upon the request and based upon my position that it should be granted, otherwise potentially creating an issue down the road for potential appeal. I did call off a number of witnesses for today.
Why did you do that?
Because of the nature of this case and because of the nature of the request and because of the potential for extreme inconvenience to several of the witnesses that had expressed some concerns or some scheduling difficulties with regard to today, and then the likelihood that it was not going to happen because of the referral.
What about the law?
I'm sorry.
What about the law?
The law as it relates to a referral for competency?
Yes.
I apologize, Your Honor. It was my, I mean,
We do need to meet a standard. You would agree?
That's correct. That's correct.
So you're stipulating to the standard. What evidence do you have that a competency is necessary here? Before you stipulate, what evidence do you have?
Just the offer by Mr. Evans with regard to conversations that he's had with his client and his assessment that his client can't follow the conversations in that sense, and help him prepare for the defense.
Okay, thank you very much. Counsel, has your client ever been hospitalized for any type of mental illness?
Based upon the information I received from him and also his family, they say he has had some hospitalization.
When was that, please?
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
Not sure?
No.
You're making a
hold on,
document here in court?
Your Honor, I can ask him. He said it was a couple of years ago.
I would hope that if you're making this request at the very last second, you would come here prepared with the evidence that you need to make this request. We don't just willy-nilly send people to the forensic center. You need evidence.
I don't think this is willy-nilly, Your Honor. My position is I'm the one who's in close communication with him. I'm communicating with him, and I know that what I need in order to proceed forward and being effective as an attorney.
And you decided to let us know yesterday at 3 o'clock.
Your Honor, I was trying to hold it together, but after I had an opportunity to review the information, Your Honor, and talk with him further, Your Honor, I'm convinced, Your Honor, that he has some mental health issues.
Okay.
Because he's 18 years old, Your Honor.
I'm going to go back to my direct questions. Please answer the direct question.
Yes, Your Honor.
I asked you if he has ever been hospitalized for any type of mental illness.
I've been told that he has been seen by a psychiatrist or a mental health individual as it relates to his mental health stability.
When?
I am not sure, Your Honor.
Does he presently prior to being arrested under the care of any therapist or psychiatrist?
I was told that he refused to take his medication, Your Honor.
When was the medication prescribed?
I don't have
What type
that
of
specific
medication?
information, Your Honor. I don't have it.
Okay.
I just know I can't communicate with him. I know he has a mental health issue. I don't know if my position is not predicated on the past. It's where he is currently, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's the basis of me asking for the
You're
request.
stating that your client has a mental illness.
I'm not a doctor, Your Honor. I'm not a doctor.
Can I speak and then you speak? How's that?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you indicated your client has a mental illness.
I'm saying that I want him evaluated to see if he has a mental illness that is the reason why he can't communicate with me in terms of preparing for this preliminary examination. I'm not saying that he has one. I am not in a position to make a diagnosis as it relates to his mental health. However, as a layperson, also an attorney of 23 years, I've had enough experience with people that I know when someone's not communicating properly and they're not in a position to assist me with this particular examination.
All right, thank you all very much. Anything further that either party wishes to state on this issue before I reference the law?
Your Honor, I would just indicate that I indicated to both defense counsels today that I just received several reports from the Michigan State Police Crime Lab. I have turned them over to each of the defense counsels. Also, I have just received a fire department fire investigation report as it relates to the arson charge, and that has not yet been turned over to defense counsel.
All right, thank you. The law as it relates to mental competency hearing. 6.125, the issue of competency may be raised at any time. Pursuant to MCR 6.125B, the motion must be in writing unless the issue of the defendant's competence arises during the course of the proceedings. Yesterday, a message was left for me from Mr. Evans' office telling our clerk that he would be asking for a referral on competency today. This message was received at 2:45 p.m. Under MCL 330.20201, a defendant to a criminal charge is presumed to be competent to stand trial. That is the presumption. He shall be determined incompetent to stand trial only if he is incapable, because of his mental condition, of understanding the nature and object of the proceedings against him, or of assisting in his defense in a rational manner. The court shall determine the capacity of the defendant to assist in his defense by his ability to perform the tasks reasonably necessary for him to perform in the preparation of his defense and during his trial. The court notes, first off, that this is a preliminary examination of probable cause hearing. This is not jury trial. Issues of criminal responsibility are properly raised in the circuit court. So the court has to decide only the issue of whether a competency exam is needed right now. Counsel states it is. When asked for direct information, evidence, the answers were not sure and not sure. Again, going back to the law in this matter, on a showing that the defendant may be incompetent to stand trial, the court must order the defendant to undergo an examination by a certified or licensed examiner of the Center for Forensic Psychiatry or other facility officially certified by the Department of Mental Health to perform examinations relating to the issue of competence to stand trial. The procedural history in this case is as follows. December 12th, defendant was arraigned. At that time, he indicated that he would be hiring an attorney, but would also fill out paperwork for a court-appointed attorney. There is no record made that he did not understand his rights, his right to an attorney. In fact, he actually stated he would be retaining an attorney and filling out paperwork for a court-appointed attorney. Again, no indication whatsoever that he could not understand the charges or the proceeding on that date. Next, on December 19th, probable cause conference date. Parties were in court. The defendant waived the 21-day rule, indicating that the time frame would be waived on hearing this preliminary examination. At that time, the matter was set for an exam. He was represented by counsel at the time. There was no mention whatsoever at that date that there was any issue as to competence and that defendant would be seeking any type of competency or criminal responsibility examination. There was no indication of not understanding the charges and no indication from counsel or the defendant that there was an inability to communicate with his lawyer. We go from that date, December 19th, to January 10th. On that day, defendant was arraigned on a new count, count 3. Fourth-degree arson. He was arraigned from the jail. This court handled the arraignment. The bond was continued. There was, again, no indication that he did not understand the charges. He responded with his name for the record. The court explained why he was here again, that he needed to be arraigned on this new charge. The right to attorney was explained. If he could not afford an attorney, the court would appoint one for him. The court asked him if he understood. He indicated yes. Told him he had a right to a preliminary examination within 21 days. Acknowledged that he understood. Told of his other rights. And at that point, bond was discussed with the attorneys. At that time, the attorney made no mention whatsoever of an inability to communicate with his client. I believe someone was standing in for Mr. Evans on that day, but there was absolutely no mention that there was a failure to communicate or understand what was happening in court, or a breakdown of communication between the attorney and clients. Now, on this late date, I have given the parties 5 weeks to prepare for this examination, certainly being told at the probable cause conference that there was quite a bit of evidence that would be submitted to the court. I don't see how both sides at all can make an argument that they've complied with MCL 330.2020. There has been no showing here, but for counsel's brief statement, there's been no showing of a need for a competency hearing. People of the State versus Herbert Mowry, that's a Court of Appeals case, 1975. Competency to stand trial should be clearly distinguished from a substantive defense of insanity. Competency to stand trial and mandatory referral to the Center for Forensic Psychiatry for determination of that issue is governed by a specific statute. That does not mean, as we held in People versus Williams, that simply requesting such referral automatically mandates the entry of an order compelling it. There must be some minimal showing that the accused cannot effectively communicate with his counsel and his inability to assist in his own defense. I do not believe that that statute has been complied with here. I am continuing with the examination today. I wish you had not told your witnesses without hearing from the court what this ruling would be, that you were calling them off. I don't understand that action at all, Ms. Collins. We are starting this exam. If this matter is bound over, competency and criminal responsibility is something that you can raise in the circuit court, but there is no reason to delay this now, and I'm not going to. Call your first witness and tell me if you have any stipulations.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have one moment to speak with Mr. Evans?
You all have had so much time to work on this. I thought we would have been in here at 9 o'clock to start this. There's been 5 weeks.
Certainly, Your Honor. Your Honor, the people would call Dr. Pacis to the stand.
Thank you. Good morning, sir. I'm going to place you under oath, please. Could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please be seated right up here. Go ahead,
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name and spell your first and last name for the record?
Bernardino Pacis, Bernardino.
And where are you employed?
I'm employed as a deputy medical examiner at Fulton County Medical Examiner Office.
And in the course of your duties, what are your duties at the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office?
Well, the duty of a medical examiner is to do autopsies of sudden unexpected deaths. Those unnatural deaths, accidental death, homicides, suicides, drug-related deaths, young children or adults who doesn't have a medical examiner, medical condition that died unexpectedly, or if there is a suspicious from a family members or friends that somebody is poisoned. These are all under medical examiner cases.
Thank you. Could you describe for us your background with regard to your education and your professional background?
I have a Doctor of Medicine degree. I am licensed to practice here in medicine in the state of Michigan. I did my anatomic and clinical pathology residency at Winthrop University Hospital in Long Island, New York. I did my fellowship in anatomic pathology at University of Medicine and Dentistry in New Jersey. And then I did my fellowship forensic pathology training at Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Baltimore, Maryland.
And you indicated, how long have you been a licensed medical pathologist?
About 21 years.
21 years?
Correct.
And how long have you been employed with the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office?
About 21 years.
Okay. In the course of your employment, have you been called upon to perform autopsies?
Yes, I did.
And approximately how many autopsies have you performed during the course of your career?
About 6,000 autopsies.
I'm sorry, how many?
About 5,000 to 6,000 autopsies.
Have you been qualified as an expert witness in the area of forensic pathology in the past?
Yes, I was qualified in the district, circuit, and federal courts.
You said, have you been qualified as an expert in this court?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, at this time, people would move to qualify Dr. Pacis as an expert in the area of forensic pathology.
Okay, any objection, Mr. Evans?
On behalf of Mr. Smith, no objection, Sean. It seems like he's qualified.
Thank you. Any objection, Mr. Smith?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the witness will be allowed to testify as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Pacis, can you explain the method or how an autopsy is performed in general?
We have a medical investigators in our office, and all sudden and unexpected deaths are reported to our medical investigator. There are 4 doctors who are rotating, and if the medical investigator doesn't know if the body should be brought, they usually call the duty doctor. And once the body is brought in the medical examiner office, the duty doctor will gonna do the autopsy the following morning.
And when one performs an autopsy, how do you go about performing an autopsy? What kind of examination do you conduct?
The routine examination will be external examination, internal examination, which also might include histological studies.
I'm sorry, what kind of studies?
Histological, or submitting tissue for microscopic evaluation, and then the toxicology. Aside from that, the medical examiner might also request some x-rays in cases of gunshot wounds or shotgun wounds.
After the external examination is conducted, what happens then?
We do our internal examination.
Okay. Were you called upon to conduct an autopsy, directing your attention to December 9th of 2016 on a person that came in, a Diana Pacis?
Correct.
And can you tell us how you conducted that, or what you were met with when that body first arrived to the Oakland County Medical Examiner's Office?
Well, I have the circumstances surrounding the death. Mr. Bachelor, who is our investigator, went to the scene And the charred body was found in the trunk of her car.
And you mentioned the body was charred. What do you mean?
There
Excuse me,
is,
Your Honor, can he slow down? I have one bad ear. If he can slow down, that'll help me along,
Okay,
please.
doctor, if you can slow down, please, so everybody can hear you clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
when we say charred, there is usually a third or fourth degree burn in the body.
Third or fourth degree burn?
Correct.
Okay, was that present as it relates to Ms. Pacisseral?
Yes, there were third and fourth degree burns. There were heat-related bone fractures. There's skin splittings in the body. Some body organs are exposed and cooked, including the brain and the small bowel.
Were you able to perform an external examination on Ms. Pacisseral?
Yes, it did.
And what findings did you make?
There was a hole in the abdomen of Ms. Pacisseral.
That was an external observation that you made?
Yes, it was.
Were there any other observations that you were able to make from an external examination perspective?
That's about it. The body is charred, so any superficial abrasions or contusions cannot be observed on a charred skin body.
From your external examination, did you then proceed to an internal examination?
Yes, I did.
And what observations did you make during the internal examination?
Well, before I proceeded to my internal examination, I did an x-ray, and I found a bullet in the L2 vertebra. So I know this is a gunshot wound. And when I proceeded my internal examination, the bullet perforated the stomach, the omentum, the abdominal aorta, and I recovered a deformed large caliber bullet in the second lumbar vertebra.
You mentioned that you were able to confirm that the hole in Ms. Pacisseral's stomach was received as a result of a bullet wound?
That's correct.
Okay. You mentioned the travel of the bullet, or where you located it. Where is the L2 vertebrae?
L2 vertebrae is the lower vertebral portion of our vertebral bodies. Stomach, so the trajectory of the bullet is front to back and downward.
Based on your observations, are you able to assess, and the trajectory of the bullet and the direction of the bullet, are you able to assess what set of circumstances physically might account for that type of injury? Well,
Based on that the bullet is traveling downward, it's either the shooter was taller than Ms. Pacisseral, or if they're both standing up and Ms. Pacisseral ducks, meaning to say did this, the trajectory of the bullet will be going downward too.
Were there any other internal observations of significance that you made?
No, I did not see any other evidence of injuries except for the gunshot wound of the abdomen.
Now, just so I'm clear, you author an autopsy report or an autopsy protocol, is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And in doing so, are you able to make an assessment about the cause? Well, let me ask you this. In that report, it indicates that there are several fractures to Ms. Pacisseral's skull. Are you able to ascertain whether those, how those were caused?
The fractures, skull, bones are all heat-related fractures.
Heat-related fractures, am I to understand that those are related to the actual fire itself as a result of her body being in the fire?
Correct.
Okay. Now, are you able to do any examinations to assess, well, let me ask you this about the internal injury that you observed. Are you able to assess how long one would have been able to survive an injury like that?
The aorta is our largest artery or blood vessel in the body. The abdominal aorta was almost completely transected. So my assessment will be a couple of seconds.
Were you able to perform any other tests in order to assist you in determining whether or not Ms. Pastoral was alive at the time she was placed in a fire situation?
Well, I did my usual carbon monoxide level, and Ms. Pastoral carboxyhemoglobin saturation level was 5%. Normal people who smoke can have up to 10% saturation level of carboxyhemoglobin. So it's not significant.
Okay, and in being not significant, what does that mean? Are you able to determine whether she had
She's
expired
been
prior to-
dead when the fire started.
She was dead when the fire started?
Correct.
Okay. Were you able to determine the cause of Ms. Pastoral's death?
Cause of death is gunshot wound of abdomen.
And were you able to determine the manner of her death?
Manner of death is homicide.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Dr. Pacis, I'm showing you now what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 1. I'd ask you to take a look at that and tell me if you recognize that document.
This is the photocopy of the autopsy protocol I did on Diana Pastoral.
And is that an accurate copy of that report without any additions or deletions or changes?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 1.
No objection on behalf of Mr. Smith, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, we received.
Thank you. Your Honor, may I publish it to the court?
Yes.
Thank you. Then we have 1 moment, Your Honor. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Evans?
Thank you. Sir, can you state your name again for the record, please?
Bernardino Pacis.
And you're employed by the Oakland County Prosecutors, Oakland County Medical Examiner,
Yes, sir.
and you've been doing it in that capacity, you say well over 20 years?
Correct.
Okay, and you had the opportunity to perform the examination of Ms. Purcell, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was performed when?
I did the autopsy on December 9,
December the 9th.
2016.
Okay. And on direct examination, you said that there was no superficial wounds.
I cannot assess if there are scraped superficial wounds like contusions or scrapes or lacerations because the skin is charred.
And
But there is no evidence of significant internal injury except for the gunshot wound of the abdomen.
And when you're performing your duties as a medical examiner, there's also a toxicologist report performed
That's
as well? And was one performed?
Yes, there was.
And was there any substances, narcotics, or anything that were found in presence?
There was a high blood level of amphetamine.
Excuse me, I couldn't hear. I'm sorry, sir.
There was a high level of amphetamine, which is a central nervous system stimulant on Ms. Pastoral toxicology blood level.
Is that a Schedule 1 narcotic?
Not that sure, let me double check.
Please, sir.
This is a Schedule 2 phenylalanine central nervous stimulant, and usually it's being used to treat cases like narcolepsy or people who fall asleep easily. It can also be used to treat obesity,
Okay.
or in some hyperactive children, this drug
Okay.
is also being used.
Okay. Now, you said that the trajectory of the bullet, the course of travel, can you give that? I missed it. Can you tell me what you believe that the course of travel of the bullet was, the trajectory of the bullet?
Front to back and downward.
So front from which side of the body?
It's on the mid
Immediate.
abdomen, and it travels relatively straight because it perforated the abdominal aorta and the L2 vertebra, which is lower than the stomach.
Okay. But you said that there was a splicing of the aorta.
Correct.
Okay. And you said that that would have caused her demise within seconds.
Correct.
And so it's fair to say that she was not alive at the time of the burning.
Correct.
No further question.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, you, I believe, gave two explanations for the trajectory going down. One was the person was taller than the victim, and the other would be the victim ducked.
Correct.
What about if the victim was sitting? If the victim was sitting, would that be a third?
That's a possibility because if the shooter is standing up, that's a possibility too.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Collins?
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor. You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May this witness be released?
Mr. Evans?
Oh, I'm satisfied. This
Mr.
is criminal
Smith?
examination.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you, Doctor.
Your Honor, the people call Officer Mendum to the stand.
Officer Mendum, I will place you under oath, please. Could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat right up here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I please have you state your full name and spell both your first and last name for the record?
First name Charles, Charles. Last name Mendum, Mendham.
And where are you employed?
West Bloomfield Police Department.
And what is your job title?
Police officer,
How long have you been in law enforcement?
24 years.
Directing your attention back to the date of December 9th of 2016, were you employed as a police officer with West Bloomfield?
Yes, I
Police
was.
Department? And were you called out to a fire call?
Yes, I was.
Where was that?
At the old Pine Lake Elementary School, Model High School, 33 West Long Lake Road.
Now, what was the status of that location or that building?
It was supposed to be demolished. It was in the pre-stages for that.
And had there been something that we call an extra patrol request made on that location?
Yes,
that
there was.
area? And so what shift did you work on that particular day?
Midnight.
So on that midnight shift, fair to say you would have started your shift on December 8th over to December 9th of 2016? During your shift, did you personally have an opportunity to do any extra patrols in that area?
Yes, I did.
When was the last time that you patrolled that area patrolled that area?
Approximately 12:37 a.m.
And at that time, can you explain to the court what you did?
I entered the property off of Long Lake Road.
Now, would that have been on the north side of the building or?
Correct.
North
Correct.
side of the building. And what was the status of that? Is that the parking lot area of that location?
It's the main entrance, the driveway up to there, and then the parking lot is on the west side.
Okay. And in doing that, were there any special barricades or anything like that that were protecting that parking area?
The entrance and exit to the school off of Long Lake Road had 2 barricades in each one, so 4 total. And I had to move one of the barricades in order to get into the property.
And when you say in order to get into the property, did you actually enter the property back when you did the extra patrol at approximately 12:37 a.m.?
Correct.
Okay, so the barricades were in place, you moved the barricade, or at least one barricade to get onto the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you make any observations? At that time, was there...
Snowfall.
There had been a snowfall?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so did you make any observations about whether any of the snow had been disturbed at that time?
None whatsoever. There's no footwear impressions or tire impressions. I appeared to be the only vehicle that had been in there since it had started snowing.
And did you notice anything unusual or suspicious during that extra patrol at about approximately 12:37 a.m.?
No, ma'am.
Did you make any other extra patrols between that time and the time that you were called out?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, do you recall what time you were called out for a fire call?
I do not.
Looks like he's
Does he have any money?
oh, using his food stamps.
After you were called out or dispatched for purposes of the fire, did you notice, were the barricades still in place?
They were.
And did you notice anything other than, well, did you even notice indications that you had been there back at 12:37 a.m.?
Just my my tire impressions.
You didn't notice anything else, any other disturbances in the snow in that area?
Not in that area, no.
Okay. You indicated that you moved the barricade at the westernmost entrance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what did you do?
I drove around to the west side.
Could you see
towards-
anything as you drove into that westernmost entrance?
Even from Long Lake Road, I could see the fire had illuminated the trees, and I could see smoke. So I knew that there was something back there.
Okay. So tell me what you did after you moved
I
the
drove
barricade
around
entrance.
to the western side where there's a playground. I was able to drive out onto the playground. Once I got past some of the structures there, I was able to see a vehicle fully engulfed in flames.
And where was that vehicle located?
There's a basketball court on the south side of the property, about midway behind the school.
And you indicated that you could see that it was a car that was on fire?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see any or take note, were you inside your vehicle at this point?
I was inside until I got to where the swing sets were on the western side, south, and before the sidewalk, and I could see there were the tire impressions leading from the subdivision west of there onto the playground, and then also footwear impressions. So that's where I stopped the vehicle.
Okay. So you could see that, you stopped the vehicle and you got out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were those the only disturbances that you observed in the snowfall? Okay. And then the car was on, you indicated a basketball court?
Yes, ma'am.
Were there basketball rims and things of that
There
nature?
are some there, yes.
Okay. And with regard to...
It was facing east.
Okay. And so with the nose in, as if coming from the subdivision area in that direction?
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned noting some prints in the snow. What type of prints were those that
There
you
were
used?
footwear impressions.
And when you say footwear impressions, are those distinguished between footprints? Footwear, are you referring to some sort
Footwear,
of...
being that there were shoes or boots or some type of footwear, not bare feet, so.
Okay. And could you also discern whether there were tire tracks of
There
any
were.
sort? Okay. And the tire tracks and the footprints, can you describe the locations of those and the path that you observed?
But there's a sidewalk that leads from the subdivision to the school, and the tracks for the vehicle went right to where the vehicle was,
From what direction?
from the west to the east.
When you're referencing that subdivision, are you familiar with the streets over in that area?
Yes, ma'am, Shorecrest and Wimberley.
Okay, so is that the subdivision that you're referencing?
Yes, ma'am.
Shorecrest and Wimberley?
Yes, ma'am.
You indicated that you also saw footwear impressions. The
Yes,
footwear
ma'am.
impressions, tell me about what you observed with regard to those.
They were leading from east to west.
And from east to west, are you meaning from the,
From the vehicle back on the sidewalk.
and did you follow the tire tracks or the footwear impression
No, ma'am.
tracks at that point?
I did not. I maintained my position there.
Okay. Did you call out for other assistance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and other assistance at some point did arrive?
Correct.
Okay. Now, were you present at that scene as the fire was being extinguished by firefighters?
Yes, I was, ma'am.
Fire department responded?
Correct.
Now, were you mindful of and directing them to not disturb the tire tracks as well as the footwear impressions?
Yes, ma'am.
So the footwear impressions that you observed and the tire tracks that you observed, were those maintained despite the fire being put out and other emergency personnel arriving?
Correct.
Okay. At some point, was the fire extinguished by firefighters?
Yes, ma'am.
And upon extinguishing the fire, well, can you tell me anything about the car itself? I know you told me about the positioning. Were there any doors that were open? Were all doors closed? Anything like that that you can recall?
I believe all the doors were closed, including the hood on the engine compartment as well as the trunk.
At some point after the car fire was extinguished, were you present when the trunk was opened?
Yes, ma'am.
And when the trunk was opened, did you make any observations?
Yes, ma'am.
And what observations did you make?
That there was a body inside still on fire.
What happened next?
The fire department had to extinguish it.
At some point, was that area cordoned off as a crime scene and other personnel were brought in
Yes,
with
ma'am.
regard to that investigation?
Supervisor was called out and crime scene tape was put up.
And did you alert other members of the response team to the tire tracks and the footwear impressions that you had observed?
Yes, ma'am.
You were able to, well, did you make observations of a license plate at any point?
Yes,
Whether it was
ma'am.
on or off the car?
It was off the car when I was able to distinguish the numbers and letters off of it.
And you advised dispatch of that information?
Yes, ma'am.
I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Sir, can you state your name again for the record?
Charles Mendum.
Okay. And you are an officer employed by the West Bloomfield Police Department?
Yes, sir.
And you were on duty on the night in question?
Yes, sir.
You were on routine patrol?
Yes, sir.
And the area, you said was near the school, was that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the school was planned to be demolished?
Yes, sir.
And you said that there were some barricades that
In the
prevented
driveways.
access into the area?
Yes, sir.
Is there one driveway into the area?
There are two on the north side.
Okay. Two driveways?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and both were obstructed by a barricade?
Two barricades on each one.
Okay, and you had been to that area around 12:37, you said?
12:37.
And you didn't see anything that would have led you to believe that someone had been over in that area?
Correct.
And then subsequently, you said you received a call.
I heard our fire department being dispatched over the radio.
Approximately what time was that, sir?
I don't have that.
You don't have that information?
Not with me, no.
Okay. And what time did you arrive back to the location?
I don't have that.
You don't know when you came back?
I would have contacted radio, and it would be in the rest of the report.
Okay. So, in your estimate, from the time that you were there at 12:37, how long was it before you arrived at the location when you were called back?
Without knowing the exact time, sir, that...
Is it an
I
hour,
returned
2
back.
hours,
Under that, probably 45 minutes to an hour.
45 minutes to an hour? Okay. And were you-
Again, not having that
I understand, sir. And were you by yourself or did you have a partner?
by myself.
Okay. And at some time within an hour, you arrived back at the location of the school, correct?
Correct.
And you saw that the barriers had not been removed.
Correct.
Both barriers or just one barrier?
None of the barriers.
Yeah, okay.
that can move.
Were you able to appreciate any tire marks?
The only tire marks were from my own vehicle.
Okay.
When I went in and came back out.
Now, when you were out there the first time, you did go into the property, is that
Yes,
correct?
sir.
How far in did you go?
All the way.
All the way?
I circled around,
Okay.
used my spotlight.
Okay. And you were there approximately 5-10 seconds?
I would say about 5 minutes total on the property.
And when you arrived, you went back into the property, is that correct? Once you returned, right?
Once the fire
Right.
was dispatched, yes, I returned to the property.
Right, returned to the property. Upon returning to the property, you saw some smoke, is that correct?
I was able to see the smoke and the illuminated trees from Long Lake Road
Okay.
before I even got onto the property.
And you said that you became aware of what was going on there because you heard a radio dispatch to the fire department, is that correct?
Correct.
The fire department beat you there?
No, I was first on scene.
First, okay. And upon arriving on the scene, you saw the smoke and you went to that particular area of the property, is that correct?
I went behind there, yes.
Okay. And that's when you saw a vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, what kind of vehicle was that?
I couldn't tell at that point.
Okay. And you said that upon approaching that particular location where the vehicle was, where'd you park your car?
I was on the west side, right next to the swing set,
Okay. And how far was that from the vehicle?
at least 75 yards.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, I don't know. You say that this particular area had been roped off or had been designated for demolition, correct?
Correct. There's fences around the structure.
Okay. But there is access to get in and out of the facility, I mean, the property, is that correct? People can get in and out of there, it's just that there are barricades to obstruct the person from coming in with
From
a car.
driving through,
But
correct.
there is access for walking pedestrian traffic, is that correct?
Correct.
And in your experience as a police officer, you've known people to frequent that location?
At times.
Okay.
Which is the reason for our extra patrol, to
Yes.
keep people from going over there.
Sorry about that. What'd you say, sir?
To keep people from going over there that shouldn't be around the construction site.
Okay. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see footprints in that area, is that correct?
At that time in the morning, it would be uncommon.
I mean, at that time in the morning, but you don't know when those footprints were laid, is that correct?
Due to the snowfall from the time that I was there 40 minutes before,
But when you were out there earlier, you didn't get out your vehicle to look for footprints, did you? You didn't see
No,
anything,
no.
right? So you wouldn't have known if there had been prints out there or not, correct?
correct, because I didn't go all the way out onto the playground.
You didn't realize that there were some footprints until you came back and saw the vehicle and started to look around the vehicle to see what was going on, investigating, correct?
Could you rephrase that
In
question?
terms of when you returned to the property,
Mhm.
when you returned to the property, that's when you appreciated that there was footprints.
Correct.
How many footprints did you see?
Only one set.
Just one set of footprints?
Correct.
Tire tracks?
One set.
One set? You said that after you realized that there was a body in the trunk, then you roped off the location of the vehicle, correct?
Not just me, another officer was on scene for that.
That was done after the body was discovered?
Correct.
Okay. However, the fire department had arrived on the location, is that correct?
Mhm.
Before the body had been discovered.
Correct.
And the firemen were in effort to try to put out the fire. They put out the fire, right?
Correct.
And they came close in the immediate area of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you said there was a sidewalk that led back to the subdivision?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that sidewalk parallel to the vehicle? How far is the sidewalk from the vehicle?
Your question is, was the sidewalk
Parallel,
parallel?
was it parallel to the vehicle?
It was.
Okay, and how far was that sidewalk?
Well, the
from
sidewalk led right to the basketball court.
Okay. And then that leads back into the subdivision?
It leads back to the west there, yes.
Did you take pictures of those
Did I?
footprints? Yeah.
I did not,
Did
no.
you instruct the evidence X to do that?
Somebody else did that at the
Okay.
scene.
Okay, so that was the sum and total of your involvement in the investigation, is preparing it for the evidence takes, is that correct?
Securing it for
Okay.
the rest of it, yes.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Officer, when the fire personnel came and you advised them to be careful with the footprints, did you watch all of them the entire time?
I was watching more of the car
Thank you.
from a distance.
Thank you. Ms. Collins, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. You mentioned that your response time for the fire call would have been listed based on your radio dispatch. If my records indicate approximately 1:30 a.m., any reason to doubt that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so a little less than an hour after you had most recently done that extra patrol.
Correct.
Okay, and just for clarification purposes, you talked about one set of footwear impressions that you saw. Let me talk to you first about what one set means. Are you simply talking about one footwear shoe print, or are you talking about just one and they all look similar? Like one path of footwear impressions?
Believing that one person made that one set of footwear impressions.
Okay, so were there several impressions in the snow?
Correct.
Okay, but they all appeared to be of the same footwear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and there was only one path, was it a straight shot, if you will, from the car back toward the subdivision that you referenced, that short crest in Wimberley?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when you say one set of tire tracks, you're talking about the tire tracks leading up to the car that was on fire?
Correct.
Okay, and one set, I'm assuming there were at least two linear patterns of tire tracks, am I wrong?
Two. Yes,
Two,
ma'am.
okay. And those, again, the path that you saw was coming from the direction of the Shorecrest Wimberley
Yes, ma'am.
subdivision and stopped at the vehicle itself on the basketball courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When the firefighters were putting out the fire, and you're watching them, were they in the pathway of, were they on the side of the car that's in the pathway of where those footwear impressions?
They were to the rear, and as they were spraying water on the vehicle, anything immediately around the vehicle, yes, would have been washed away.
Okay, but prior to them getting there, but
But prior to that, no.
And the path of the footwear impressions and the path of the tire tracks were still maintained in that vicinity, and you could tell, could you tell where it
Leading
led
up,
from
yes,
to?
ma'am.
You could?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers?
Yes. Officer, back to the footprints. You said you saw a set of footprints leading from the vehicle, is that correct?
They came from that
Came from the
direction, yes.
vehicle, right? And that was the passenger door, driver door?
From the rear of the car.
You didn't see any?
I didn't get up that far enough
You
to
didn't- so you don't-
see on either side of the door.
You didn't know if there was footprints on each side of the door, is that correct?
I cannot say that,
You
no.
couldn't see?
I didn't get up that far at that time.
Did you have your flashlight?
I did, but there was still a working fire,
Understand? And how deep was the snow?
only a couple inches.
A couple of inches? And you said that the fire department came out and they used water to put out the fire, correct?
Correct.
And you said that disturbed the footprints, the snow.
Immediately around the vehicle, yes.
And so you don't know if there was people, someone's getting out of the passenger side or the driver's side, correct?
I can't say that, no.
There was two people out there,
I
correct?
can't say that.
No further question.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, the footprints, were they heading parallel to Long Lake or diagonally toward the street that leads into that subdivision?
The sidewalk pretty close parallels, kind of angles slightly southeast, but they were
Along the sidewalk?
correct.
And how far could you see them? I know you didn't follow them. How far could you see them from where you were?
When I first arrived on scene, you could see that they went right to where right along the tracks of the vehicle. So right from the car.
How far along the sidewalk?
I don't have a estimate of that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, thank you very much, Officer Mendum. You may step down. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Collins.
I may have one moment, Your Honor. Your Honor, the people call Byron Turnquist to the stand.
Okay, Mr. Turnquist, I will place you on your oath, please. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated. Very good.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name and spell both your first and last name for the record?
My name is Byron Turnquist, BYRON, TURNQUIST,
And where are you employed?
West Bloomfield Township Fire Department.
And in what capacity?
I'm the fire marshal.
And as the fire marshal, what are your job duties?
Annual fire inspections, plan reviews, acceptance testing, fire investigations.
And have you been trained in the area of arson investigation?
Yes.
Okay, and also trained in the manner of cause and origin of fires?
Yes.
Okay. And so talk to us a little bit about your specialized training and experience as it relates to that.
Over the last 20 years, I've attended several courses. I've gone to the Michigan State Police's basic and advanced fire investigation schools. I've taken classes at the Macomb Community College. I've attended multiple seminars statewide for origin and cause and fire investigations.
And have you been certified as an arson investigator and investigating?
I'm a
cause and
certified
origin of
fire
fires?
and explosion investigator through the National Association of Fire Investigators.
Okay, and is that certification something that is kept up to date and monitored and renewed?
Yeah, I have to take continuing education courses and renew, I believe, every 5 years.
I know that you indicated that you're certified. Do you belong to any other professional organizations?
Yeah, I'm a member of several. The Oakland County Association of Arson and Fire Investigators, the Michigan Arson Prevention Committee, the Michigan chapter of the International Association of Arson Investigators, and the International chapter of Arson Investigators.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, people move to qualify Byron Turnquist as an expert in the area of arson investigation and the cause and origin of fires.
All right, any objections? Mr.
On
Mendum?
behalf of Mr. Smith, we have no objection for the preliminary examination.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
No objection for the preliminary examination.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. What is your title? I don't want to call you Mr. Turnquist if there's a...
Fire Marshal.
Fire Marshal, okay. Fire Marshal Turnquist. Were you called out to the scene of a fire back on the date of December 9th, 2016?
Yes, I was.
Was that over at the Pine Lake Elementary School, or what was known as the Pine Lake Elementary School?
Yes.
What did you observe when you arrived to that scene?
Observed a car on the basketball court on the playground towards the rear of the school that had been heavily burned.
Okay. And at that time, were the flames still ablaze, or had the fire been extinguished?
The fire was extinguished.
Okay. So what, as an arson investigator, what steps do you take at that time when you arrive on scene?
The police department had already taped off the area, waited to kind of work along with the police department investigators. Excuse me. Then I photographed the scene all around the vehicle, the ground around the vehicle, and then kind of do a scientific approach to work from the outside in, area of least damage to the area of greatest damage. and then we collected evidence samples, or I collected evidence samples from the scene.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you took pictures. You took pictures of the vehicle itself?
Yes.
And did you take pictures or at some point ascertain an aerial view of the area that you're speaking about?
Yeah, I got that, I believe, off of Google Maps.
Okay, and was that after the actual investigation itself, just to
Yeah.
give yourself a layout of the
Correct.
location? Okay, so when you arrived there, you said that you observed the car, the flames had been extinguished, and the car itself was positioned on the basketball courts area?
Correct.
When you arrived, were you alerted in any way to the fact that there were tire tracks or footwear impressions that they were trying to, have remain undisturbed?
Yes.
Okay, and so did you take care to not disturb those?
Yes.
Did you make observations of footwear impressions and tire tracks that they were referencing?
I saw footprints in the snow, and I saw the tire tracks in the snow leading towards the basketball court.
Now, with regard to that, did you make any observations specifically as it relates to the pattern or the directional travel of either of those?
If I understand your question correct, I believe that the tracks in the snow were made from the vehicle that was parked on the basketball court.
So the tire tracks that you're referencing, are you referencing the tire tracks?
Yes.
Okay, so those tire tracks that you saw, the path of those tire tracks, did those lead to where the car
Right
remained?
towards where the car was, correct.
Okay, and how about the footwear impressions? Did you make any observations about those?
I saw them.
Okay, okay, but further than that, you did not take on any part of the investigation as it relates to that?
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned that you make observations or you ascertain the car itself. You took pictures. What were you taking pictures of?
I tried to photograph the entire car. Took pictures of the exterior first that included the basketball court area. Worked my way closer to the vehicle, took more pictures, took pictures of the inside of the vehicle, the passenger compartment, the trunk of the vehicle, and then I also took pictures of the evidence that we collected, where it was bagged and where it was collected from.
Were you able to ascertain what type of vehicle this was?
With the assistance of the police department, they were able to give me the information on the vehicle from the license plate.
Okay. So at the time, was the destruction of the vehicle so extreme that you were unable, could you tell the color of the vehicle, the original color?
No.
Could you tell the original make and model of the vehicle?
No.
Okay. How extensive was this damage?
It was extensive. There was heavy fire damage, just about the entire vehicle.
When you arrived on scene, were you made aware that a human remains had been found in the trunk of the vehicle?
Yeah, I was given that information when they called me in.
When you arrived, were the remains still present at the scene?
Yes, they were.
Okay. While you were at the scene, were those remains removed?
Yes.
When you mentioned taking samples, what was the purpose of taking samples?
To see if there were any accelerants that were used in the fire.
Where did you take samples from?
Can I refer to my report?
If that would help to refresh your recollection, yes.
The first sample I collected was from it was fire debris that was located near the driver's side front tire.
Would that have been on the exterior
On the
of the car?
exterior of the vehicle. Yes.
Okay.
Collected from the basketball court.
Okay.
The second sample was collected of fire debris that was located on the floor of the driver's side, the front seat. The third was fire debris collected from the driver's side back seat floor area. The fourth sample that I collected there was after the remains were removed, there was clothing underneath, and I collected that. That was the fourth sample.
Clothing underneath where the body had been
Correct.
positioned? Okay. Were there any other samples that you removed?
Yeah, I believe it was on the 12th. We visited the car again at the police station
Okay.
and collected 3 more samples. One sample from the passenger side front floor area, a second sample from the floor area of the passenger side back seat area, and then the third sample was a portion of the spare tire cover in the trunk.
Okay.
that the remains were on.
Have you been called upon to investigate other car fires during the course of your profession?
Yes.
Have you been called upon to investigate house fires and other types of fires?
Yes.
With regard to car fires specifically, have you been educated with regard to any anomalies with regard to car fires or differences between things you might find in a car fire versus other types of fires?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to this car fire, what are you looking for when you go do your investigation?
Try to eliminate accidental causes for the fire, and then work our way through to try to determine the cause.
And can you give us an example of the types of accidental fires that might occur with a vehicle?
If there's a fluid leak in the engine compartment that could lead to an accidental type fire, you could have an electrical problem within one of the vehicle's electrical systems that could lead to an accidental fire.
Have you been called out to car fires and investigated car fires where you have found such a cause, accidental cause?
Yes.
And in those circumstances, what kind of damage would you expect to see?
It depends on several factors. It depends on where the fire would have originated. Engine compartment fires sometimes can be contained to the engine compartment. Dashboard fires or electrical fire in the dashboard area of a car can be limited to that area. Depending on how long the fire burns, the fire could progress to other areas.
With regard to this particular car fire on December 9th, 2016, would you characterize that as more extensive than those you've just described?
Yes.
And were you able to tell what the cause of the fire was? Were you able to make that determination?
I believe it was a human act. That gasoline was spread on the vehicle, throughout the vehicle, and ignited.
And are you able to tell the origin of where those areas of gasoline would have originated from?
Difficult to pinpoint where, so no.
Okay. Were you able to ascertain based on samples that you took? Let me ask you about the samples that you took. You said that one of the samples that you took on December 9th of 2016 was from the driver's side front tire.
Correct.
And that was from the exterior of the car.
Correct.
Okay. Were any accelerants located on that sample itself?
That sample one came back positive for gasoline.
And was there damage to that area of the vehicle?
Yes.
And that damage, was it extensive or minimal?
It was extensive.
And with regard to sample, I believe it's sample number 2, the floor of the driver's side front seat,
Correct.
any results with regard to any accelerants in that area?
There were no accelerants found in sample 2.
Another sample, you said driver's side back floor?
Correct. Number 3?
Yes. Were there any accelerants located on that sample?
That was negative as well.
And you indicated that you also took samples of the clothing under that had been located where the body had been prior to its removal.
Correct.
Were there any accelerants located on that sample?
Sample number 4 was positive for gasoline.
Now, you mentioned you took photos of the vehicle at the time on December 9th, 2016. Were photos also taken on December 12th, 2016?
Yes.
By December 12th, had that vehicle been moved and relocated to the police department garage?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of going back there for your investigation purposes?
Just as the investigation continued, I felt it was important to take a couple more samples.
And that's when you took those 3 additional samples from the passenger front floor, passenger rear floor, and the spare tire cover?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the passenger front floor. In that sample of the debris that you took, were there any results with regard to any accelerants located on that sample?
That was negative.
And how about the sample you took from the passenger rear floor?
That was also negative.
And how about the portion of the spare tire cover that was located in the trunk?
That was positive for gasoline.
So am I understanding your testimony correctly that the cause, you determined that the cause of this fire was of human origin, that it was an intentional fire?
Correct.
And areas of that the accelerants were located, or potential causes or origin areas, included that driver's side exterior near the front tire area. Are there any common features to that area why one would find the accelerant in that location?
The insurance, through some of the trainings that I've attended, the insurance company has seen a trend where people that are setting cars on fire intentionally are pouring an ignitable liquid or a flammable liquid.
I think that requires speculation now. I don't think he has conclusive information that would suggest an answer for that question, Your Honor.
Well, if you want to build a foundation, go ahead. He's already been qualified as an expert.
I understand.
The objection also wasn't really responsive, so go ahead.
Are there areas of a vehicle that are more common for people to attempt to use accelerants and to start a car fire?
I have seen where people have poured a flammable liquid on the windshield area, cowl area, where the windshield wipers are, and light it there to try to mimic a problem in the dashboard. And what happens there is some of that liquid will fall through drain holes and pool in the area on the ground behind that driver's side front tire or the passenger side front tire.
Based on that experience and that knowledge that you have, is that one of the reasons at least that you took the sample from that location?
Yeah, I noticed that there was debris there in that area and I collected that.
Thank you. So there's a positive for accelerants at the front area of the car and the exterior at the driver's side tire. There's also positive for accelerants in the trunk area. Am I understanding that correctly? And those are, am I understanding it correctly, that those are at the two, if you will, extreme areas of the car?
Opposite,
One front, one
almost
back?
opposite ends, correct.
And with regard to the positives, the clothing itself was found located underneath the human remains?
Correct.
And the spare tire portion, where would that have been located relative to the body that was located?
Directly underneath.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
You mentioned having obtained aerial photographs of this location where the car was ablaze.
Yes.
Did you include that in your investigation?
Yeah, I attached those, or included those pictures in my report.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
It's just that shows us the area. This is each side of the car that's okay. Show the area.
All right, Marshal, I'm showing you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 2. I'd ask you to take a look at that and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes.
And what is that?
That's the picture I included in my report, aerial photo of the Pine Lake Elementary School.
Okay. And could you do me a favor and highlight the area where the basketball courts are, where the car was located?
The basketball court or the vehicle?
Well, is the vehicle shown in that picture?
No.
Okay, so could you highlight where the basketball court is?
Yes. Doesn't show up very well.
And there's been some discussion about a sidewalk area. Are you familiar with the sidewalk area with regard to the tire tracks and the things that you observed that day?
Yes.
Is that sidewalk apparent on that Google picture?
I believe so.
Okay, and can you highlight the sidewalk area that, where you saw, I guess the sidewalk area that's in the direction of those tire tracks that you observed?
Yes.
Other than the highlights that you've added today, does that accurately reflect the location of the car fire that you went out to investigate?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, the people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 2.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
Thank you. And you mentioned taking some photographs of the car. I just specifically, I'm going to show you some pictures, I believe, of the exterior of the car, showing you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 3. I'd ask you to take a look at those 2 photographs and tell me if you recognize those.
Yes.
What are those?
Those are the pictures of the vehicle that I took the evening of the fire, or the morning of the fire.
And does that show the driver's side or the passenger side?
The driver's side.
Okay. Is that an accurate reflection of the state of the car after the flames were extinguished when you arrived on scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 3.
No objection on behalf of Mr. Smith, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
And next, I'm showing you what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 4. I'd ask you to take a look at those 2 photographs and tell me if you recognize those.
Yes.
And what do those show?
The passenger side of the vehicle.
Okay. Do those accurately reflect what the state of the car after you arrived on scene and the flames had been extinguished?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 4.
Again, no objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
Okay. Is that published to the court? Yes. Thank you.
Counsel, have you seen these
No.
photographs?
Yeah, I have, but I've not seen him since he's made the
Okay.
highlighted
Do
marks.
you have extras, counsel? Or
I do not. This is from the report that.
Okay, so I'm going to get these as well as the autopsy protocol reports to you.
May I approach once again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you now what's been marked as people's proposed exhibit number 5. I'd ask you to take a look at those 2 photographs and tell me if you recognize what those 2 photographs show.
That's the rear of the vehicle and inside the trunk.
Is that prior to the body's removal?
Yes.
Okay. And does that accurately reflect the scene as you came upon it after the flames had been extinguished and you started your investigation?
Yes.
The samples that you took with regard to the clothing and the spare tire portion of that cover, where are those located in relationship to the body that you see in this photograph?
The spare tire cover is in the area of her rear end, and the clothing was in the area of her torso, upper torso.
Okay. And as the body lay there, well, does that accurately reflect what you came upon?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, people move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 5.
No objection.
No objection.
The configuration of the body, were you able to tell where her torso was in relationship to the areas of the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, so her area of the torso, was that closer to the trunk latch or closer to the passenger, rear passenger seat area?
I would describe it as being closer to the passenger seat area.
Okay. And am I understanding that her lower extremities or her feet area were located closer to where you would normally, from the exterior of the car, open the latch of the trunk?
Correct.
Thank you. May I publish to the court?
Yes.
I have no further questions at this time, ma'am.
Sir, drawing your attention back to the date in question again, you're the fire marshal, correct?
Correct.
And when you arrived on the scene, the fire had been put out, correct?
Correct.
However, there was obviously there were 5 engines that were there prior to you getting there, correct?
Correct.
How many engines were out there?
I believe we had a quint, an engine, and a rescue respond to the scene.
And that encompasses how many individuals?
Should have been 6, and the shift commander also responded.
6 or 7
Seven.
men. And they were all engaged in putting the fire out?
I don't know, the shift commander wouldn't have been engaged in putting the fire out. The engineer of the fire truck wouldn't have been engaged. Usually there's 2 or 3
2 or 3 individuals?
that would be directly
Okay.
be engaged in that.
And when you arrived on the scene, you said the fire was out?
Correct.
Is that correct? So obviously there was a presence of water, correct?
Correct.
That had been used, correct?
Correct.
And that was done, the fire was put out before the evidence techs that arrived on the scene, is that correct?
Correct.
I noticed you said you were taking pictures, correct?
Correct.
Was there an evidence tech out there as well? Or are you acting in the capacity of an evidence tech when you start taking your pictures?
I take pictures and collect evidence for fire investigations, and that's where I did those tasks.
Okay, was there evidence tech?
There was
on
an
the scene?
evidence tech from the West Bloomfield Police Department there, and then also from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, and they arrived after you arrived or before you arrived?
After, I believe.
After you
I don't know
arrived.
exactly the thing. Sheriff's Department after, I don't know for sure when West Bloomfield Police officer arrived.
What time did you arrive on the scene?
I can refer to my report.
Please, sir.
Looks like just after 2 in the morning.
After 2, and the area of investigation was not taped off at that time?
It was.
It was taped off? Okay. And you said that at some point you had an opportunity to go do a closer inspection, is that correct?
Can you repeat your question?
At some point you were allowed an opportunity to do a closer inspection of
Yes.
the fire, is that correct?
Correct.
And you said that you found debris.
Correct.
Okay. When you say you found debris by the front left tire,
Correct.
what kind of debris did you find?
It was fire debris, plastic. I'm not exactly sure what the item was, but it had been damaged by the fire. It had been burned.
Okay. And that was near the front tire?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that there was also some debris that you collected in the rear, in the trunk of the vehicle, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. However, there was no accelerants or proof of accelerants inside the interior of the vehicle,
The
correct?
samples I collected from inside the vehicle came back negative.
Negative.
Correct.
Correct. Now, when you were taking pictures, you said that was after the fire was put out, and that was after the firemen had removed themselves from the immediate area of the investigation, is that correct?
Correct.
And you said that you were not in a position to take pictures of the passenger side and driver side of the vehicle on the ground? Were you in a position to take pictures of the passenger side and driver side of the vehicle?
Yes.
Were you able to take pictures of footprints?
I would have been able to, but I'm trained in fire investigations and not footprints, footwear,
I mean, but you were investigating, correct?
the fire.
Right, right. And you were investigating the fire, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you arrived on the scene, you realized that this was a homicide, correct?
Correct.
And you, as the fire investigator, fire marshal, took it upon yourself to take pictures of points of origin of the fire, correct?
Correct.
And also investigating the entire area of the car, correct?
Correct.
And so a part of the investigation would be footprints, correct?
Yes.
Right? You didn't see any.
I saw footprints. I did not photograph.
You didn't photograph them? And this was after the firemen had come in and out of the scene, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. You didn't see, you say you saw some in the front of the vehicle?
I saw footprints in the area of the bike path, sidewalk, further away from the vehicle. Around the vehicle.
Around the vehicle?
Around the vehicle, no. With fire suppression activities, the water, there were no footprints.
No
there.
footprint, that's my point. You didn't see any footprints
I did not see
around.
footprints there.
Right. And that's why you weren't able to take any pictures, and you didn't, correct?
Correct.
All right. So you don't know if there's multiple footprints by the driver's door, multiple footprints by the passenger door, correct?
Correct.
and also in the rear of the vehicle, you were not able to appreciate whether there was two set of footprints or one set of footprints. Is that correct?
Because of the suppression activities and the snow being melted there, I did not see any footprints on the
So
basketball.
that would say it compromises your investigation because of suppression of the flame disturbed the location. Is that correct?
I don't think I understand your question.
Compromise. You couldn't take pictures, you said, because after they suppressed the flame, the water and the chemicals that were used to suppress the flame pretty much washed away evidence.
The heat of the fire and the water from suppression washed away any snow and washed away footprints
Yes.
in that area.
And you said that there was a sidewalk that led from the vehicle to, was it the subdivision?
There's a sidewalk from the subdivision that goes towards the school. The sidewalk did not go to the basketball court.
Okay. And did you follow any tracks or see any tracks or take pictures of any
I
tracks?
saw tracks along with other police officers that were there. I did not photograph those tracks.
Right, and you don't know who was responsible for those tracks, correct?
I believe the evidence technicians from the police department and the sheriff's department.
Okay, but
photographed
personally, you
those.
don't know?
I did not.
All right. And you don't know how long they had been there, correct?
No,
How much snow was out there?
not very much.
Not very much? Pretty much a mist?
More than a mist, but there was not a lot of snow.
Were you able to locate a gas can in the trunk of the car?
No.
And you say that the debris that was in the trunk was clothing?
There were several items in the trunk that I could see in the pictures, or that show up in the photographs.
Women clothing, men clothing, or do you know?
The sample that we collected from under the torso was women's clothing. It appears to be a bra that was clasped, closed, and a shirt.
And a shirt? No further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Marshal Turnquist, did you do any analysis of the gasoline samples
No,
to determine the composition?
I collected the samples and took them to the state police lab in Sterling Heights.
And do you know if they've conducted an examination of the composition of the gas?
I don't know as far as the composition of the gas. My report says it came back, the three samples came back positive for gasoline.
Just gasoline in general, no specifics about octane level, ethanol percentage,
I don't
age?
believe so.
What type of container it might have been in?
No.
Thank you.
Ms. Collins, any redirect?
You indicated, I know you were asked about footwear impressions and things immediately around the vicinity of the car.
Correct.
Do I understand you correctly that based upon the trying to extinguish the fire, if anything had been present there, that would have been washed away?
Correct.
I know you indicated you didn't follow the footwear impressions, but that you saw footwear impressions.
Correct.
Were those footwear impressions that you observed limited to just a single pathway of a single set of footwear impressions?
Yes.
Just in one area?
Yes.
Leading away from the car? Okay. You didn't see any other footwear impressions that seemed to be leading away from the area of the car?
No.
Okay, even if they weren't right around the vicinity of the car?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, counsel?
You didn't include that in your report, did you?
No.
That you saw one set of footprints?
No.
You never told anybody that, did you?
No, I did not.
No, this is the first time that you said you saw one.
I concentrated my investigation on the
Understand.
specifics of the fire while the police officers were working on the tire tracks footprints.
I understand, but in this capacity, now that you realize this is a homicide, you're working with the police, correct?
Correct.
You never told them, hey, I saw one set of footprints going over into the area of the
No,
school.
it was because of their discussion that I looked at those footprints.
Okay. And you never took any pictures, even though you had a camera?
No.
Okay. No further questions, John.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any
No-
requests?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Marshal Turnquist, you're all set, thank you.
Now, may we approach?
Okay. Okay, back on the record, we need a couple of breaks here, so I will take about a 10-minute recess. Officer, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're all set, thank you.
All rise.
I was just here yesterday with Steve.
What?
I said I was just here yesterday for Steve and Bill.
Oh, so that's not
His friends. Cost me some money.
okay.
Friends.
Bill and Dr. Frank. You are. You are. Now's probably not a good time.
Okay. Just making sure.